special time of year here in New York as we celebrate the return of the U.S. Open, but unfortunately no fans. To chat a little bit about tennis here in the city, we have Brian Clark, who does the play-by-play for the U.S. Open, also has a great podcast with ATP Radio. Brian, how's it going?
Doing good, Bobby. Thanks for having me. Excuse my mask, but that is the reality of tennis and life in 2020, right?
You know, I saw you picking some fun at Djokovic earlier with the Mets mask on Twitter. A little bit of fun there. I didn't know if he might have done the same for you today. I know you got a chance to call one of his matches.
Yeah, he had a win over Kyle Edmund, and I mean, he is the story certainly on the men's side of this tournament. No Roger Federer, no Rafa Nadal here. First time since 1999 that neither of them have been here. They've won this tournament 9 times. Djokovic hasn't lost in 2020. Of course, you missed 5 months of the season with the suspension, but he is the best player in the world by far right now. So it is fascinating to be watching him out here.
You know, it definitely begs the question, can anyone stop him on the men's side?
Yes, but you've got to see it first this year. And so far, we haven't seen that. But there are players in this draw. Daniil Medvedev, a runner-up here a year ago. Some of these young players, Stefanos Tsitsipas, who would be a semifinal opponent of Djokovic. They're capable, but let's see them do it. And let's see them do it over 5 sets, not a best-of-3 set format.
You know, interesting times, of course, with the virus and the pandemic. And I think a lot of fans, of course, disappointed about not being able to be there in the bubble. But at the same time, you know, the virus, of course, has taken a hold on all of sports. What is it like to be a broadcaster right now inside that bubble calling these matches?
Eerie is probably the word because, you know, this tournament is built on energy. This tournament sums up its city maybe better than any of the other majors. It's New York. It's all about the energy. And you lose so much of that by the fans not being here. So that is very weird. But at the same time, there's immense gratitude that this tournament is happening because a couple of months ago, you know, living in New York, Bobby, you know, just how remote of a possibility it seemed that we'd be playing tennis at the U.S. Open in late summer. So it's very strange, but once you get past the strangeness of not having fans and just the different format, it's relief and gratitude that we are here playing major tennis.
You know, your Twitter feed has some great content, too. I make mention of, obviously, Novak's mask today with the tweet that you sent out, but you also had a great picture of Andy Murray and the difference between what it was like when he won, packed with fans, and then, of course, what it's like to see him back out there in Flushing Meadows now with no fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the match of the tournament so far. Murray's been through the ringer with injuries, with hip surgeries. Great if anybody wants to seek it out. A documentary on Amazon Prime called Resurfacing, and it's about his journey back to the game. Came back from 2 sets to love down on Tuesday to beat Yoshito Nishioka on Arthur Ashe Stadium, a court where he won his first major title 8 years ago. But yeah, I happened to be at the last major he played, the Australian Open in 2019. And he actually lost this 5-set heartbreaker to Roberto Bautista Agut. So to be at those 2 matches where this place, in that Bautista Agut match, there was a thought that that was going to be it for his career before he underwent this surgery. And there was this expectation that this was his last match. So there was that feeling around it. That was an incredible emotional feeling. This yesterday here, it was an incredible feeling, a lot of emotion, but just very different because of the fact there weren't 20,000 people screaming for him.
You know, and speaking of surfaces, first time in 42 years that the Open has a new playing surface, and it looks awfully fast. Is it playing faster than we thought it would?
I think the jury's still out after almost 3 days because on the outer courts, yes, it does seem to be playing faster. It's something called lay cold. It's still a hard court, just a different kind of composition. But some of the players who played in Arthur Ashe Stadium said that one's actually playing a little bit slower. Now, there's always the Western and Southern Open is one of the top tournaments outside the majors of the year. And they moved it from its usual spot outside of Cincinnati to here just before the U.S. Open as a way to cut down on travel, keep everybody in one place. So the players got a taste of this surface at the Western and Southern Open. And now, so that was able to, a way for them to get used to it. But it seems to be playing a little bit faster, but not maybe dramatically so.
So on the men's side, we already know about the dominance of Novak Djokovic. On the women's side, I think it's fair to say it's probably a pretty open field, right?
I mean, that's an understatement. It feels like there are 8 to 10 women who could win this tournament. As I sit here talking to you, the top seed Karolina Pliskova was in some big trouble against Caroline Garcia. She's gotten it back, though, in the second set. So, okay, she's the top seed. for the second time here in her career. So she's capable of a deep run, a former finalist here. Former winner here, Angelique Kerber, has very quietly, very efficiently moved into the third round. The results for her, the German, have been very up and down over the last couple of years. Naomi Osaka is a former champion here. She's capable of winning this tournament. But it's the U.S. Open, and all eyes, of course, are on Serena Williams, still trying for that 24th major. You've got to go back now almost 3.5 years since she made it 23. She's trying to equal Margaret Court's record of 24 majors, win a 7th U.S. Open. She has gotten through so far, beat Christiane yesterday. First time since the tours restarted that she was able to win a match in straight sets. She had to go the distance. She was really being pushed in Lexington and then the Cincinnati tournament. So just getting through in straight sets is huge for somebody at her age.
I'm glad that you mentioned Serena too, because she's been stuck on 23 for a while, in courts, of course, all-time record. But she's lost the last 4 Grand Slam finals, and it's been a hard road for her. And I think physically she hasn't necessarily been up to the task, even though you got to make the case that she's still arguably the best in the world and maybe the best of all time.
Well, I would actually disagree with you because I think physically she is up to the task. I think in these finals, you're seeing the pressure get to her a little bit, and that's not something you would expect out of one of the most accomplished athletes in any sport of all time. But she has gotten a little bit tight in these big matches over the last couple of years. Of course, the unfortunate scenes in the final here 2 years ago against Osaka last year, very tight, and that loss to Andreescu just has not been able to punch through deep in these tournaments. So, but this might be as wide open as this thing is, and with the number of WTA top 10 players who aren't here, this might be the best chance for 24. And I'm sure she knows that better than anybody, which in a lot of ways might only add to the pressure.
So, Brian, you don't think it's a shape issue then? You think it's more maybe her chasing history?
I mean, it's shape in that she's not getting any younger, but she's in good condition. It seems like the layoff has helped her because she's able to rest and recover and just work on fitness. I think it's just these other players haven't looked as scared of her. You had these players that came up alongside Serena. She beat all of them. Then you had that immediate next generation. She beat all of them. But now we're into this third wave, the Osakas, the Andreescu, who's not here. And these are players, okay, they look up to Serena growing up, but it's just a different feeling around her now, and they have this fearlessness about them.
You see Coco Gauff go out in the first round, and of course Venus Williams is also out already. Surprised by some of those results?
Not particularly with those two, because they both drew very tough opening round opponents. I am surprised that we didn't see more chaos. It's like, okay, the form does hold even after all the layoffs. You didn't know what to expect. Disappointing if you're an American men's tennis fan, because it's now been 17 years since Andy Roddick was the last American man to win a singles title. Disappointing that John Isner went out so early, because it seemed like he had a good chance to make a deep run here on these fast courts that we just talked about. But he was beaten by another American in Steve Johnson. Sam Querrey, somebody else who's capable of good tennis on fast courts, beaten in the first round. Riley Opelka, one of the bright young next generation of American tennis, he lost in the first round. So those were disappointing. But in terms of the upsets, we haven't seen too many shockers, and that is maybe the surprise.
I guess, in closing, are you surprised that we were able to get the U.S. Open off the ground? Because they really were one of the first programs to kind of talk about this bubble, and it seems to be working better than anything else.
I was surprised. Like I said, if you had told me 5 months ago we'd be sitting here, I would have said no way. But once they committed to trying to make this work and how the situation's gotten better in New York City, then it becomes, okay, there's a finish line in sight here. There is a goal here, and every day is a challenge. I mean, there's regular testing, regular monitoring. They've done a lot of contact tracing, as one player had to withdraw after testing positive, so they had to follow up on that and take some extra precautions. But it's, knock on wood, holding so far, and they've done a good job of keeping that in place the best they can.
Well, Brian, it's always great to see you, even if I don't get a chance to see that handsome face, behind the mask. So great having you on the show.
Thanks, Bobby. I'm doing everybody a favor with this mask. Trust me.
Great to see you. Appreciate you taking the time, and looking forward to the rest of the Open.
Thanks, Bobby.